Hey, what's up, Belize? Hi, it's me, Ansel West again, formerly known as Ansel West. Um, this morning, I had a post on Facebook that reoccurred from 2 years ago, and basically what it was saying is it was speaking to my brothers and sisters in Belize, speaking out to them to let them somehow find a way to cease with the violence in Belize. But and one of the response I received from a friend of mine was basically that she informed me that there was another murder in Belize last night, and it came as somewhat of a coincidence. And she was asking the questions as to why she haven't understand as to why this is occurring in Belize, and no one seems to have the answer in answering her questions to her question. You know, we to gain an understanding of crime and violence in Belize, you have to get an understanding of social engineering. You have to get an understanding of your status as Americans, Belizeans, quote unquote. Um, you also have to look at the demographics of how the government is structured. All these things and landmass and all that, you have to take into consideration to gain a clean understanding of how it plays a role in the crime we are experiencing. If you take a trip back in time, we could go back to when they actually paid Saudi Errington $30 million, the government of Belize at the time, $30 million to remove corporal punishment from the classrooms. Right? Once we look at that and we match that to the era of young men who are creating all the havoc in Belize with the murders and all that, you would find a distinct link to those individuals who, because they lack discipline within the classroom, they somehow fell off from attending school. Then you have poverty that also attributed to that instances as well. So once we look at this and we start assessing, we'll get that understanding that these are the kids that who are creating havoc in the streets of Belize right now. So now, if we look at that, then you start looking at ways that we could move forward as Belizeans, how we could structure our governmental body, as well as interacting with the community to help alleviate crime. One of the major things too is we having this problem where we find that parents can't afford to send their kids to school. That has that comes in direct contrast with the fact that 37 years after independence, we have not developed no economical or industrial structure for Belizeans to actually get to work. So what we have been researching over here at Belize United Front, we have been researching designing programs that are cost effective to help alleviate the problem. One of those programs is a simple program. It's called urban gardens, right? We came up with the plan to implement urban gardens within the communities, and we have it broken down into compartments where you have each constituency. You have various different community centers within that community, and the people, the residents in that area, what they do, they revolve around that community center where they have different crops they plant in their backyard or in vacant lots. And then we take the community and we bring the women together to start preparing those fruits and vegetables and what have you to make a proper meal for the kids in the morning and in the afternoon and in the evening. You know, that's another alternative that can be implemented, and it will create it will reduce crime, it will alleviate hunger, it will instigate the children to be more receptive in the classroom and all that, to be better productive citizens. You know, all these things we have to look into as alternatives to deal directly with the crime issue, because what we're finding is that what's been they've been hiding to is a lot of the crime that's been dealing with the robbery of stores, home break-ins. Then you have right now people threatening other or residents in not reporting these crimes and so forth within the community. So if we start looking at these things, we could start addressing it. Also, too, what needs to be done is to look into the government swaying away from the fact that their responsibility is not somehow directly, and their actions is not somehow directly a cause for the crime and violence that we are experiencing throughout our communities. Right? They're trying to use, like for instance, they were trying to use stats on the crime wave within Punta Gorda in comparison to Belize City, and you could never make that comparison to try to justify that Punta Gorda crime rate, even though they're considered to be more stricken to poverty than in regards to Belize. You cannot make a comparison in that manner based on landmass, demographics, and so forth, right? The reason I say that is because if you look at the makeup of Punta Gorda, you have easy accessibility to the sea, where you could get fishes, go fishing and all that. You can't get that with the low-lying areas in Belize City. You have open areas for farming, agriculture. You can't get that readily in Belize City. You have to look at transportation, means of transportation. For us to reach a nice plot of land or a farmland or so, you have to travel. Most people don't even have a bus fare. You can't afford gas being 11 something, 11.90 something, or $12 or something in Belize right now. You know, all these things are factors that we have to look at as Belizeans to get an understanding that to alleviate crime, you have to take all these things into consideration. You have to look at the whole broad spectrum of what is taking place and try for us to come together as a community and alleviate these issues. You know, so the implementation, that's the key thing that we're pushing here at the Belize United Front, is to try to establish these urban gardens. Now, we discussed demographics. We discussed the fact of education and lack thereof, food, resources, and reducing parental guidance due to stress, and all these things are all factors. Then you have post-traumatic stress disorder that comes from all the crime and violence that have people in a stressful, angry mode all the time, always looking over their shoulder. The slightest thing, because you turn to violence as a means of protecting yourself. There's a fear to even venture outside your community in fear of retaliation. So you also find that even though we find that youths want to rehabilitate and want to change from their environment that they're presently in, they still have this fear of retaliation, because it has happened in the past when these youths go through the various different programs to try to help them to uplift themselves, and so they find that they experience that retaliation from those who are not involved in the in the programs as well. So it has to be a broad thing where all the parties need to come into to speak on how to move forward, but also too, we cannot expect that we're going to take youths and adolescents and kids and train them how to uplift themselves, but do not have the means for them to carry on this training that they receive. You understand? You cannot train somebody and put them back in the exact environment that you have rehabilitated them from. You know, and that means low poverty area, dilapidated houses. You know, all these things have a stressful reaction to an individual. So for us to rehabilitate someone, you have to change their environment. You have to change their outlook on life. You have to change their access to food and the basic necessities like water, electricity, and all these things for them to uplift themselves. You know, so all these things we have to look at, but for us to get to that point, the first means we need to do is to start feeding ourselves. And if we reach that point where we could set up these community centers where we could have these people enact and uplift themselves, then that would be something great for us to build upon. You know, because once we build on that, then everything else starts falling into place. You know, in regards to all the deaths, man, it breaks my heart, man, to see all the death that we're experiencing, and also to notice that it's pure brothers and sisters killing each other. You know, and once we start straying away from that aspect of it, then we could start building and move forward. We also have to understand that social engineering is playing a major role in the murders and crime rate and all that we are experiencing in Belize. And when I say social engineering, I'm speaking of for instance, you have the dam that's been built in Belize. These people that erected that dam knew from the get-go, due to studies in various different parts of the world, that by having stagnated water sitting in a river valley or so, it sucks mercury from the earth. And then once you release that water, after it builds up that high concentrate of mercury, then you release that into the river and streams and all that. Then you find that the water have that high concentrate. It passes over to the fishes, and then it passes over to you whenever you consume the fishes or you drink the water. You know, it also affected along the banks the different animals, that the birds and give nuts and what have you that you eat as well. They build that high concentrate of mercury within their system as well. What mercury does to your system, it messes with your neurological system, that you find that you cannot function and be receptive telepathically. You know, that's another topic to get into and all that, but we have so many things that these things affect us with. Another thing is our bottled water, the high concentrate of fluoride within our bottled water. But all these things are other means that we will do a more in-depth video of, to explain to you the cause and effects of these different chemicals and minerals and things like that have on the body, that have us acting in the wild and erratic way that we're acting in right now. You know, all these things are factors that we have to look into. Also too, like when we have like high abnormal crime, like for instance the young man that raped that little girl, if he did the other day. You know, if you look at situations like that, what should have been done with the individual is to get a sample of his blood, let him speak with a psychiatrist and all this, to find the root of the reasons as to why he acted in the manner in which he acted. Because if we don't do a toxology test on individuals that commit heinous crimes, and so we cannot gain an understanding of what the causes and later on to find the solution to these things, you know. So all these things are things that we as Belizeans, we so-called Belizean Americans, we have to start looking at and take all or problems, like I was mentioning yesterday, take all our things, lay it on the table, and assess it in a intellectual manner rather than getting wild up in an upheaval and acting irrational. You know, these are things that we have to look at, and we have to start protecting our people, because as so-called Belizeans, we are love. You know, we have always been love, peaceful, and all this, and this is something that we simply must maintain as Belizean Americans. You know, if we don't, then we give others the upper hand in taking over our government, really and truly take over our government, and really having us as the serfs that they're preparing us to be. You know, and if we guys don't come together as a community and start addressing all these issues and look at this whole broad problems that we're experiencing at Belizeans, we will fail. We will fail as Americans. I guarantee you. You know, so it's another call I'm doing for you guys to unite and come together as a unit, and let us lay all these problems and situations that we're facing and put it on the table, and let's address them, man, in an intellectual manner, so that we can move forward as Belizeans. All right. That's just a short video for today. My condolences go to the family of the individual that passed, and all those who have passed in the past. All right. We have a article that will be out soon, something that we are working on. It's an investigative article that we've been working on from January, and it will explain, basically break down the reason as to why we are experiencing this high crime wave and murders and all these things that we're experiencing in Belize. That is something I'm looking forward to for us to release. Because it will give us as Belizeans a clear understanding of what is taking place, and it will also give us an opportunity to come together and unite as so-called Belizeans. All right. With that said, man, I'll see you guys another time, and then we could build on what we're building on. All right. Enough love, peace, and guidance, folks. Take care. Have a beautiful day, man. Bye.